Starting a homestead can feel overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. Whether you're on a small plot of land or a few acres, there's a way to approach this that makes the process smoother and more rewarding. In this video, we're going to cover why it's important to start your homestead with a plan, some key priorities for new homesteaders. Leave a comment below about your homesteading goals, and let's get this journey started.
Hey guys, this is Matthias.
And I'm Rosie.
I actually grew up on a homestead. Something that we have had to learn here on our 2 acres now is the amount of space that we have is limited, and being able to maximize everything that we have.
Some things to expect when you're thinking about initially getting set up with any animal or even just in general is there's going to be some cost involved. Do you want to talk real quickly about like how you saved money on our homestead setting those things up?
Yeah, so like I would say the biggest cost that we had with our sheep was initially buying the sheep and our sheep fence. And both of those, if taken care of properly, will last you a number of years. But like the mineral feeder that we've got and the water, those were both just items that I had or picked up for free. Just a 5-gallon bucket works, honestly.
If a purchase is going to serve you long term, really consider a more expensive option for the quality factor over the cheap factor. So yes, you can make a lot of things out of scraps. We do that here too. Our pig shelter, the water and the mineral feeder for the sheep. But there are some things you need to invest in.
Some of those things would be like your tools. There's a pitchfork that I bought. It's probably been a year or two ago. And I would say it was on the cheaper end. And now I have to look at replacing it because one of the tines broke on it. It just doesn't work as well.
Okay, so I wanted to show you guys a couple things that I really enjoy using, especially around the homestead, things that are make more productive, useful. So one of these would be this paint mixer that we've got. I use it for mixing up our chicken feed and any other feed that for fermenting. And then I would say the next thing is probably this wagon that we've got here. And so obviously it's just wagon, but it's also a dump wagon, which is really useful. We use it nearly on a daily basis. And then one of the other things I would say, I've been on the hunt for several years for finding a good quality boot to use. And I feel like I finally found something that's actually pretty good. So these are High C is the brand. If any of you guys are familiar with Greg Judy, he talked about that. And so I went ahead and got myself a pair, and honestly, I would say these are some of the best that I've ever gotten. And the price point is cheaper than some of your other brands. So yeah, so far they've been really good.
Starting a homestead from scratch is like making a mindset shift. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So often I see people get so excited and they just jump into too much, too fast, and it ends up biting them. I suggest you and your spouse or your partner sit down and establish your priorities that are unique to your situation and set realistic goals for your first year. So I wanted to share with you the 3 areas you should be dialing in as a new homesteader. The first is food security. What are you going to grow? What grows well in your area? And how are you going to store it and or preserve it? What animals can you realistically manage in your stage and season of life? The second one is self-sufficiency. It's not so much that you need to be completely independent. It's that you need to have systems in place so that, heaven forbid, you have a power outage, or more like when there's a power outage from a storm or natural disaster, that you can keep your homestead rolling. So this looks like a way to be feeding your animals and keeping them watered. This looks like a way to cook and keep yourself warm. So like, having a generator on hand for in the winter months, you have heat to consider. Being prepared and having a level of self-sufficiency is critical if you have animals and young children on your homestead. And the third one is sustainability. And that means not biting off more than you can chew. What is realistic? What are some things that'll stretch you in a healthy way, but are still realistic within your limitations and your season of life? There's things we do as a family of 7 that are sustainable for us, but may not be sustainable for someone else if they're not used to it or they're new to this. It's just important to be realistic and not bite off more than you can chew and then later suffer from it or regret it and burn out and quit altogether. There's nothing easy about running a homestead. There's nothing easy about being responsible for livestock and your own food security. It's the harder way to live, actually. But what I can say about this lifestyle is it's more fulfilling and more satisfying than living in that consumer world and rat race, at least in my experience. Homestead is kind of like eating an elephant. You're not going to eat the whole thing in one bite. So an advantage we have is that Matthias grew up living this lifestyle. He watched his mom and sisters can, sometimes even was helping out. He and his dad were doing on the farm, doing the outside, managing the animals. So he is used to all of this. He's used to at-home butchering. He's used to taking care of animals and all these things. But for me, I did not grow up 100% exposed to that kind of lifestyle. In our early years of marriage, I had to spend a couple years just getting used to cooking from scratch, being responsible for making all the meals. It was an adjustment. It was a skill I had to develop. Take the time and devote 1 year at a time to maybe learning a new skill. And I like to think of the 1% rule. I'm stealing this from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. It's a really good read if you have the time for it. And the rule goes that if you focus on 1% improvement every single day, at the end of the year, you'll be 365% better. Now, do we always get the 1% every day? No. But at least there's a lot of grace within 365 days a year to be making 1% improvement.
I'd say one of the most important things and first things to think about on a homestead is your water supply. For us, we've got, for our animals, we have this chicken house that we have actually has a water barrel in here, and we've got some gutters on it, and so it collects the water off the roof, and it's actually surprising how much it helps us. I'd say it actually supplies the water for probably at least, it'd be enough water for all the chickens and probably 75% for the sheep. Keep it low and try and keep it empty because it's pretty cold right now and I don't want it freezing stuff up and busting pipes. And then we've got a cistern, and it's really only got probably about, I think it's a 1,200 gallon cistern. This year, going through a drought, we definitely had to haul in water probably 3 or 4 times throughout the summer. But in a normal given year, when we have enough rain, we don't typically have to haul very much at all. If we had a cistern that was twice the size or 2,000 gallons, I think honestly it would cover us 95% of the time. So for our homestead, the only exterior building that we have for any of our animals is our chicken house. And I built that a couple years ago. And, it's for a beginner homestead, it's probably a little overkill. It wouldn't have to be as well built as it is, but I had access to the materials and most of it was free or cheap. The windows in here, those came out of an old house that's being redone and doesn't freeze very much at all in the wintertime. I just recently switched to using a bucket for the chickens with just water because the other water that we were using was starting to freeze up. The water line that was attached to it was freezing up. But those are just the kind of things to think about when you're starting a homestead, figuring out what you want, what you need. And just a very simple basic structure would work if you just had a couple chickens. But I also use this for housing different animal supplies, fencing, netting. It has our electric fencer in here, which is actually completely off grid. Now I do have some issues in the wintertime here with the battery not staying charged enough, so I have to recharge the battery sometimes. But it's been really nice and it's worked out well for us here. All right, let's get these sheep some water here. The wintertime for our sheep, this is where it's a bonus with just having a couple sheep. I don't have to worry too much about water for them, and for us it's just a basic 5-gallon bucket is what I've been using. I just swap out the old one just to it's freezing temps right now, so I just try to morning and evening make sure they have water, and they won't even drink 5 gallons on a day like today. What's up, girls? Got some more snow overnight. Probably got about we probably got about 4 inches here on top of the 6 inches we had or so, which some of it had melted. But wintertime here. So with starting a small homestead, you know, there's a variety of places that you could start. But what I see is chickens are probably one of your best ones to start with. They're smaller cost. They're relatively easy to take care of. And of course, we have our sheep as well. And if you've never handled any animals, I would say that's a good place to start. A dairy cow is going to be a greater investment. And also, it takes some pretty good fencing. Like what we've got right now, we've just got electric netting, and we can move it around and everything, which it would be fine for a cow as well. But the entry point, I would say, is a lot easier in here. So this is our hog netting, which, but basically what I want to show with this, we use sheep netting from Premier One. I have seen other brands, but I would say that the best bang for your buck is going to be getting your netting from Premier One, and they have different quality as well. But from what I've seen, this just lasts really well for us and it works good.
I want you guys to know we have done this and grown what we've had for the last 5 years with a very low income. Mm-hmm. It is 100% possible. It might involve some sacrifice, but it is possible to do this with a low income and with not a lot of capital to work with.
And I would say, to go along with that, you know, I don't think that it's a waste of money. And actually, I would say it's a good spending of money to buy some courses that are good quality. You know, find someone that teaches it really well and spend the money to learn it. And in the long run, that will actually save you money if you can learn from their mistakes.
In fact, we've even got some course ideas in the works. If there's something you'd like to see, be sure to drop that in the comments, because we are here to help you guys get started, to help you guys launch your homestead and accomplish a lot on whatever acreage you have, whether it's 1 or 3 or 5. I think the key here is to start small and put those goals of yours on a piece of paper and slap it on your wall where you can see it every day and be reminded of why you're doing this, why it's important to you, and continue to set realistic goals for yourself to work toward those goals. Baby steps here, guys, baby steps. So what's your top priority for your homestead this year? Leave a comment and let's support each other as we continue on our journey together. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe button. It helps us so much as a small channel, and we will see you next week.